Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we're continuing our Uniting the North series with episode 2, titled Guo Jia. Now last time, we ended as Cao Cao begun his northern invasion following Yuan Shao's death as he surrounded the city of Liyang. Under siege and undermanned, Yuan Tan called for aid, and this time his brother Yuan Shang would actually answer. And even though Yuan Shang did not provide any additional troops to Yuan Tan's army, he did come in person, leading the bulk of their forces as the two brothers will now fight together to defend the land their father worked so hard to build. Then for a month, the two sides battled for control of Liyang, with Cao Cao ultimately scoring a decisive victory, forcing Yuan Tan and Yuan Shang to retreat back to Ye to make their final stand. Now, unlike Liyang, Ye was an ancient city, with almost 1,000 years of history by this point, as it was first founded in 580 BC by the descendants of the Yellow Emperor of the Xia dynasty. Named after its first ruler, Da Ye, Ye remained a major city during the Zhou dynasty, where it first belonged to the kingdom of Jin during the Spring-Autumn period, before becoming the secondary capital for the kingdom of Wei, once Zhao, Han, and Wei split away from Jin and kickstarted the Warring Kingdom period. And by the Three Kingdom time, Ye was one of the biggest cities in the north. So naturally, it had a massive city wall and was well defended. Thus, Cao Cao was forced to settle in for what seemed to be a prolonged siege. But luckily, because Yuan Tan and Yuan Shang hastily retreated from Liyang, the forces within Ye did not expect to be coming under siege so soon. So the defenders never had time to harvest or destroy the crops outside of the city. Now Cao Cao got to enjoy them as his army busied themselves with harvesting the wheat outside of Ye, as well as setting up a siege for the city, which in the grand scheme of things does not have much of a material impact on the siege itself, as a city of Ye's size and importance would have massive stockpiles of food and supplies within the city already. But just as both sides prepared for this long siege, Cao Cao's advisor, Guo Jia, offered up a different plan, as he suggested retreating back to Xuchang, as removing the external threat will lead to infighting within the Yuan clan and make future campaigns much easier for them. Now, before we continue here, we're going to take a couple different asides, as we'll first talk about Guo Jia, as this series will probably be his last, as he would sadly die during the Wuhuan campaign. And despite your preconceptions about Guo Jia, he was a relatively latecomer to Cao Cao's faction. Born in the populous Yinchuan commandery in 170, Guo Jia was a member of the Guo Gentry Clan, known for their study of criminal codes and legalism. And due to the numerous turmoils of the state in his youth, Guo Jia decided to forego a political career once he came of age in 190. So he lived a life of a hermit instead. But still, due to his family connections, in 196, he was invited by Yuan Shao to join his court. However, after traveling to Ye, Guo Jia would excuse himself, as he would explain to Xingping and Guo Tu, who is a distant relative of his, that while Yuan Shao is trying to mimic great leaders of the past by inviting many talents to his court, he lacked the ability to properly utilize all these talents. Nor is he capable of discerning good advice from the bad, as it would be impossible for him to rescue this country from its current state. And with that, Guo Jia left and returned to his hermit life back in Yinchuan. But later in the same year, under the invitation of another family friend, Xun Yu, Guo Jia would once again be summoned to join another court, except this time, it was Cao Cao's court. And after meeting with Cao Cao in person, both sides were elated, as Cao Cao was pleased with Guo Jia's insights, while Guo Jia was pleased with Cao Cao's talent and ambition, as Guo Jia became Cao Cao's advisor. But this invitation would have never happened if it wasn't for the untimely death of another one of Cao Cao's advisors, named Xi Zhicai. Another fellow Yinchuan advisor, actually, Xi Zhicai was recommended to Cao Cao also by Xun Yu, as he became one of Cao Cao's most trusted advisors in Cao Cao's earlier days. But unfortunately, in 196, he would die young of illness, leaving a void in Cao Cao's inner circle, which is why Cao Cao turned to Xun Yu for another recommendation. And in case you're wondering why Cao Cao is always turning to Xun Yu, or why Xun Yu can always recommend capable advisors, we have to first take a look at the Gentry clans of Yinchuan. Now, dating back to the spring and autumn period, Yinchuan had first belonged to the kingdom of Han, and it was the founding place of legalism philosophy, which led to an increased interest in politics by the local Gentry clans, as many of these clans, including Guo Jia's clan, would become legalism scholars, as they would naturally pursue jobs relating to penal codes or criminal law. And due to this heightened interest in politics, Yinchuan's Gentry clans managed to thrive throughout the Warring State period all the way to the Han Dynasty, where of the roughly 95 big Gentry clans throughout the country, the commandery of Yinchuan had 13 of them. This is by far the largest concentration, and through intermarriages and political connections, these 13 clans remained a very powerful force politically as well as academically. And during the two partisan incident in the late Han, where scholars from the Gentry clans struggled against the eunuchs, many of the leaders of the scholar movement were actually from Yinchuan, such as Li Ying of the Li clan of Yinchuan, who was seen very much as the figurehead of all the scholars during this period. Also included were many of Xun Yu's uncles and father, as they were collectively known as the 8 Xuns of Yinchuan, as there were 8 sons in that generation. And that is exactly why Xun Yu was central to recommending essentially many of his family friends to Cao Cao. Now, while the word nepotism might jump into your mind, you also have to think about how things worked back then. There were no public schools during this time period, so only private schools existed, and private schools were essentially clan schools, as they are only opened by wealthy and powerful Gentry clans, and also taught by members of these clans, and they typically only accepted members of the same clan. So coming from a Gentry clan guaranteed that you were well educated. And in the end, if we looked at all the Yinchuan advisors within Cao Cao's court, they would very rarely disappoint, as we have people like Xi Zhicai, Guo Jia, Xun Yu, Xun You, Zhong Yao, as the Zhong clan was also one of the 13 clans hailing from Yinchuan. Now, not every member of the Yinchuan advisor corp would be top tier, as Yuan Shao also had a fair number of them working for him, as both Xing Ping and his brother Xing Pi both hailed from the Xing clan of Yinchuan. And of course, we mentioned earlier, Guo Tu hailed from the same clan as Guo Jia, which is why he would end up being invited to Yuan Shao's camp in the first place, although they were quite distant relatives. And as an added bonus, Liu Bei's first advisor, Xu Shu, also hailed from Yinchuan. Now, back to our lore series, as we have Guo Jia suggesting to Cao Cao that a retreat from Ye would be in their best interest, as it would remove what is seen as a common threat uniting the Yuan brothers. Trusting Guo Jia's analysis of the situation, Cao Cao would order a retreat immediately. Now, it's easy for us today to agree with Guo Jia's analysis, but at the time, Guo Jia had to earn Cao Cao's trust, as even as early as 197, in the first year of Guo Jia's service, Guo Jia would go on to write his famous 10 wins and 10 losses article in regards to why he believed Cao Cao would eventually overcome Yuan Shao in their unavoidable conflict for the north. In this article, Guo Jia would point out 10 conditions where Cao Cao won and Yuan Shao lost, as proof to why he thinks Cao Cao would eventually become a victor should Cao Cao and Yuan Shao go into war as early as 197. And his first point here is called Dao Sheng, or the winning of the ways. Guo Jia believed that due to his gentry upbringing, Yuan Shao was obsessed with needless customs and unnecessary rituals, which Cao Cao was more natural in his approach to things and people, and thus Cao Cao wins in the way he conducts his business. The second win is called Yi Sheng, or the righteous win, as Cao Cao now held the emperor. So his rule is the rule of the Han, and thus the righteous side in any conflict. The third win is called 至胜, or the win of the rule, where Guo Jia believed that the faltering of the late Han period came because of a period of lax rules. While Yuan Shao's policies in the north might favor people with minimum interventions, it is not what the Han needed at this time to fix its wrongs. So Cao Cao's more legalism approach is a win in terms of the method of ruling. The fourth win is called 度胜, or the win of tolerance. While Yuan Shao actively recruit talent into his camp, he does not trust them completely, while Cao Cao puts complete trust in those who he asks to work with him. So Cao Cao wins as he can tolerate the talents of those working under him. Then the fifth win is called 谋胜, or the win of stratagems. Here, Guo Jia points out Yuan Shao lacks decisiveness, while Cao Cao is more adaptive and opportunistic. Then the sixth win is called 德胜, or the win of virtue. Yuan Shao likes to praise himself and surrounds himself with yes-mans, while Cao Cao treats his advisors with more respect and showers them with praise and rewards, and thus attracts more talent to join his side. Then the seventh win is called 仁胜, or the win of duty. While Yuan Shao might lend a hand to the suffering of someone in front of him, he lacks vision and ambition to alleviate the suffering of the entire state. While Cao Cao might ignore the plight of the few, he's definitely focused on the plight of the state. Then the eighth win is called 明胜, or the win of acuity. While Yuan Shao is prone to believe the false words of his yes-man, Cao Cao can discern good advice from bad ones. Then the ninth win is called 文胜, or the win of the scholars. Once again, Guo Jia points out Yuan Shao can't tell the difference between right or wrong, while Cao Cao can, where he treats the right way with respect and punishes the wrong ways with clear law and punishments. Finally, the 10th and final win is called 武胜, or the win of the might. While Yuan Shao treats troop just as a number, focusing on quantity over quality, Cao Cao's troops are much better trained and commanded. So with these 10 wins and Yuan Shao's 10 losses, the outcome is clear. Now, of course, there is definitely a certain element of flattery going on here, but having written this in 197, the events of Guandu in 200 no doubt proves Guo Jia's foresight. And in addition to his analysis of Yuan Shao, Guo Jia also predicted that due to the recklessness of Sun Ce, his conflict in the south will certainly result in his assassination, as many of the local Gentry clans put down by his rapid expansion will certainly retaliate. And sure enough, just as Sun Ce was plotting to attack Cao Cao during the Guandu campaign, he ended up getting assassinated by Xu Gong's house guest, seeking revenge for Xu Gong's death at Sun Ce's hand. And with that, we're going to be ending our episode here, as Cao Cao will once again heed Guo Jia's advice, and we'll see next time if Guo Jia will once again be proven correct. So hopefully you all enjoyed this episode, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!